Mia pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the kitchen window, watching the late afternoon sun stretch long shadows across the yard. The garden was quiet, almost still, the roses swaying gently in the autumn breeze. For a moment, she let herself imagine the world outside as a place full of color and laughter. Far from the small routines that had filled her life for so long, the house behind her was unusually silent. Her younger brother had gone to a friend's house after school, and her father was still at work, buried in deadlines and meetings that never seemed to end. Normally, Mia found comfort in the bustle, the small chaos of a lived-in home, but today, the silence felt heavy, almost suffocating. She realized with a twinge of loneliness that moments like this were rare and necessary. Mia's eyes drifted to the living room, where the sofa was neatly arranged, the cushions plumped, as if expecting someone to come and settle into them. But no one was there. She let out a soft sigh, feeling the emptiness in the space around her. It wasn't just the absence of people, was the absence of connection, of a pause long enough to breathe and reflect. Life moved so fast that she had almost forgotten what it felt like to truly notice someone else. To share a moment of quiet understanding without distraction. A soft sound behind her made her turn. Her mother, Laura, was standing at the doorway, drying her hands on a dish towel. Laura's presence always brought a subtle warmth into the room, a feeling that everything might be okay even when the day had been rough. She had that calm, composed aura that seemed to settle the edges of Mia's restless thoughts. "Hey," Laura said softly, her eyes lighting up in a way that made Mia's chest tighten ever so slightly. "I didn't hear you come in." "I was just looking outside," Mia said, trying to sound casual, though her voice felt small in the large kitchen. Laura smiled gently and moved closer, placing a cup of tea on the counter. The steam curled lazily upward, filling the air with a comforting scent of chamomile. "It's a beautiful afternoon," she said. "Sometimes it's nice to just be still, don't you think?" Mia nodded, though she wasn't sure if she could put her feelings into words. She had always loved these rare pauses with her mom, but today was different. There was an unspoken weight in the air, a sense that something unsaid lingered between them, something that Mia couldn't quite name, though her heart recognized it immediately. She busied herself with drying a few dishes, hoping to anchor herself to something tangible. But every glance at her mom brought a flurry of thoughts she wasn't ready to voice. Laura moved around the kitchen with effortless grace, her hands steady, her movements precise yet soft. Mia found herself studying the way sunlight caught the strands of her mother's hair, the curve of her smile when she hummed quietly to herself, the gentleness in her eyes even after a long day. It was a feeling Mia had experienced before, a mixture of admiration and longing, but today it was sharper, more insistent. She wanted to reach out, to bridge the space between them in a way that went beyond casual conversation. She wanted to be seen, really seen, by the one person who had always been the center of her world. The room fell into a comfortable silence, filled only by the ticking of the wall clock and the distant rustle of leaves outside. Mia's heart beat a little faster. She felt the weight of anticipation, that delicate tension of waiting for something to happen, though she didn't know what. It was the kind of moment that could either pass unnoticed or change everything. Laura finally turned toward her, placing her hands gently on the counter near Mia's. "You've been quiet today," she observed, her tone soft but knowing. "Everything all right?" Mia hesitated, her fingers tightening slightly around the dish towel. She wanted to say so much, but the words seemed too fragile, too heavy for the quiet space of the kitchen. Instead, she just nodded, letting a small, unsure smile play on her lips. Laura studied her for a moment, a hint of concern flickering across her features, before she smiled again, warm, reassuring, patient. "Sometimes it's okay to just feel," she said softly. "You don't always have to explain." Mia felt a wave of relief wash over her. It wasn't just the words, it was the understanding, the unspoken acceptance, the recognition that she didn't have to carry her thoughts alone. In that moment, the air between them felt different, charged with a quiet possibility, as if the day itself had opened a door to something she had been waiting for without knowing it. She glanced at her mother again, And this time, she didn't look away. The house was still. The garden outside was still. And for the first time in a long while, Mia felt the world hold its breath with her. Something was about to change. She didn't know how or why, but she sensed that this quiet moment alone with her mom would mark the beginning of something new. Something that would shift the rhythm of their lives forever. And just like that, the day that had begun with silence and loneliness now felt alive with anticipation, as the golden sunlight faded into a soft amber glow. Mia and her mom, Laura, moved into the living room. The quiet of the house wrapped around them like a familiar blanket, comforting yet charged with unspoken emotion. Mia sank into the couch, her fingers tracing the worn fabric. And for the first time that day, she allowed herself to drift into memory. She remembered the small details of her childhood as if they were photographs in a dusty album. The way her mother used to hum while folding laundry, the gentle whistle when she prepared breakfast on hectic school mornings, the quiet reassurances whispered in the middle of storms, both literal and emotional. Each memory felt like a thread, weaving a tapestry of love, care, and a connection that had always been there, quietly guiding her. Mia's mind lingered on the summer spent in the backyard garden. Laura would pull weeds with deft hands, showing Mia how to tend to the plants without breaking their fragile stems. Life, Laura had said once, is a lot like gardening. You nurture what matters, and sometimes you have to let go of what doesn't grow. Even then, Mia hadn't fully understood, but she remembered feeling the weight of those words, a kind of gentle wisdom that stayed with her long after the flowers bloomed. Another memory floated up off. Rainy afternoon when Mia had been heartbroken over a school friendship that had ended abruptly. She had hidden in her room, tears dampening her pillow, when Laura had quietly entered with 2 mugs of hot cocoa. She had sat down without a word, just holding her daughter close until the storm outside mirrored the storm inside. "It's okay to feel sad," she had murmured. "It doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." That moment had marked something profound for Mia, an understanding that her mother's love was constant, unwavering, and yet never forced. And yet, despite all these memories, there had always been a space between them, a distance that neither had fully bridged. Life had a way of keeping them busy, work, school, responsibilities, and though they shared routines and laughter, there was an unspoken tension, a quiet longing that often went unnoticed. Mia's gaze fell on Laura now, noticing the faint lines at the corners of her eyes that had deepened with years of worry and care, the softness in her hands that had been roughened by work and responsibility. She realized that her mother had carried so much quietly, never asking for recognition, never seeking applause. And yet, those sacrifices had built the very foundation of Mia's life. Laura, sensing her daughter's reflective mood, sat beside her on the couch. The warmth of her presence was immediate, grounding, and familiar. "You're thinking," she said gently, her voice breaking the comfortable silence. "About everything." Mia nodded, unsure how to translate the swirl of emotions into words. "I was just remembering," she said softly, "all the little things you did for me. All the moments I didn't notice." Laura reached over and brushed a loose strand of hair from Mia's face. "It's okay," she said, smiling faintly. "Those moments were always for you, even if you didn't see them at the time." Mia's chest tightened with something she couldn't name. It wasn't simply gratitude. It was a mix of admiration, longing, and a bittersweet ache for all the time she hadn't fully realized what her mother's love had meant. She had been so wrapped up in her own world, her own thoughts, that she hadn't paused to appreciate the depth of their bond. "I wish," Mia whispered, almost to herself, "that I had understood sooner. All the ways you've been here for me." Laura's eyes glistened, but she said nothing at first. Then, with a quiet strength, she said, "Mia, life doesn't always give us the time we wish for. We can't change the past, but we can be present now. That's what matters." Her words hung in the air, gentle yet powerful, and Mia felt the weight of years lift just slightly. She realized that while there had been distance, there had never been absence, not truly. Every small act, every quiet support, every shared laugh or tear had built a bridge between them, even if neither had fully acknowledged it until now. The living room seemed warmer somehow, the fading light brushing their faces in a soft embrace. Mia reached for her mother's hand, and for the first time that afternoon, the silence was not heavy. It was shared, rich with meaning. They didn't need words to understand that their connection had always been deeper than the routines of daily life, stronger than any unspoken distance. Mia's thoughts drifted further. 2 times she had been afraid to confide in anyone else. Laura had always been the one who listened, the one who held space for her without judgment. The next morning, sunlight spilled into the kitchen, warm and golden, filling every corner with a sense of calm. Mia had woken early, restless but hopeful, carrying the memories of yesterday like a fragile, treasured note she didn't want to lose. The quiet hum of the house felt different today, as if it knew that something subtle, something important, had begun to shift between them. Laura entered the kitchen carrying a basket of freshly baked muffins, and Mia couldn't help but notice how ordinary moments could suddenly feel extraordinary. Her mother hummed softly, a tune Mia didn't recognize. Yet it lingered in the room like an echo of comfort. "Good morning," Laura said, placing the basket on the table. "I made your favorite blueberry." Mia smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. "Thanks, Mom," she said softly. The words felt lighter than usual, carrying an unspoken layer of closeness that hadn't been there before. As they sat down, the kitchen window caught Mia's attention. Outside, a small group of children were laughing, their voices ringing across the yard. One of them had tripped and fallen, and a friend immediately helped him up. Mia felt a pang of nostalgia, remembering afternoons when she had run across the same patch of grass, calling to her mom for help or comfort after minor scrapes and spills. "You always notice the little things," Laura remarked, following Mia's gaze. "Even now." Mia shrugged, trying to mask the depth of emotion she felt. "I guess I do," she admitted. "It's hard not to, when it reminds you of everything you've missed." Laura's expression softened, a gentle understanding in her eyes. Sometimes, noticing the small things is the first step to seeing the big picture, she said. Mia nodded, her mind wandering back to yesterday, to the quiet moments of reflection and memory. And then, as if by fate, a small event broke the rhythm of their morning. A letter slid under the kitchen door. Fluttering slightly in the gentle draft, Mia picked it up curiously. The envelope was unfamiliar, the handwriting neat and deliberate. She glanced at her mom, whose eyes widened slightly, a flicker of recognition passing across her face. "It's from someone I used to know," Laura murmured, her voice hesitant but steady. "I didn't expect to hear from them again." Mia's curiosity piqued. She handed the envelope to her mother, feeling the tension in the room rise ever so subtly. There was something about the moment that made it feel suspended in time, as if the universe had paused to orchestrate this quiet intersection of past and present. Laura carefully opened the letter, her fingers trembling slightly, and began to read. Mia watched, a strange mix of anticipation and empathy swelling in her chest. The words weren't meant for her, yet they affected her profoundly. They spoke of missed opportunities, apologies left unsaid, and the gentle hope of reconciliation. Mia noticed how Laura's eyes softened, the corners crinkling with a mixture of emotion and reflection. "It's strange," Laura said finally, closing the envelope and placing it on the counter. "It makes me realize how much time slips by without us noticing, without us saying what we need to say." Mia reached out instinctively, placing her hand over her mother's. The warmth was grounding, familiar yet intensified in a way she hadn't expected. "Maybe it's not too late," she said softly. "Maybe now's the right time." Laura looked at her daughter, really looked at her, and for a moment the world outside seemed to disappear. The sunlight streaming through the window, the soft hum of the kitchen, the quiet ticking of the clock, all of it faded into the background, leaving only the two of them in a bubble of shared understanding and emotion. "I think you're right," Laura said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We've waited long enough to let life pass us by. We can't change the past, but we can shape what comes next. Together. Mia felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of gratitude, hope, and something deeper she couldn't fully name. It wasn't romantic in the way stories sometimes mislead, but it was intimate, profound, and undeniably moving. It was the quiet recognition that bonds could deepen, that understanding could evolve, and that connection true. Heartfelt connection could transform ordinary moments into something extraordinary. The small twist of fate, the letter. The pause in routine had ignited something that had been lying dormant for too long. It was a spark of awareness, a gentle nudge from life itself, reminding them both of the power of presence, reflection, and emotional honesty as they cleaned up the breakfast dishes together. The air between them was lighter, yet charged with meaning. Every glance, every shared smile, every soft word carried the weight of yesterday's memories and the promise of what might come. Mia felt her heart swell not with longing that was inappropriate, but with an intensity that was emotional, real, and entirely human. By the time the morning sun fully brightened the kitchen, Mia knew that the course of their day and, perhaps, their lives had subtly shifted. Something had changed between them, something neither could ignore. It was a present twist, a moment shaped by fate and coincidence, yet made profound by the quiet, steadfast love that had always existed between mother and daughter. And in that small, sunlit kitchen, amidst the ordinary sounds of home, Mia realized that life had a way of giving second chances, not in dramatic gestures, but in quiet, meaningful ways. All it took was noticing the moment, embracing it, and allowing the bond that had always been there to flourish anew. The afternoon sun poured through the living room window, casting warm streaks of light across the floor. Mia sat on the edge of the couch, her hands clasped loosely in her lap, while her mom, Laura, rested nearby, a book unopened in her lap. The quiet between them wasn't empty, it was heavy with unspoken thoughts. Words that hovered just out of reach, full of longing, hesitation, an emotion neither had dared to voice. Mia's mind replayed the events of the past 2 days, the rare quiet moments, the shared reflections, the letter that had unexpectedly appeared. Each memory was a brushstroke in a picture she hadn't realized she was painting, a picture of their bond, delicate yet enduring, built on years of love, care, and silent understanding. And yet something remained unsaid. I've been thinking, Mia began, her voice soft and hesitant, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the fragile tension in the room. About us. About everything that's happened, and everything we've missed. Laura looked up, her eyes meeting her daughter's. There was a softness there, a flicker of something almost like relief, as if she had been waiting for this moment but hadn't dared to imagine it. I've been thinking too, she said quietly. Sometimes I wonder if I've said enough, if I've shown enough, or if time has just slipped away while we were busy. Mia's throat tightened. The words mirrored exactly what she had been feeling, years of small silences, moments of hesitation, a quiet longing that had been woven into their daily lives. It wasn't about mistakes or regrets. It was about realizing, all at once, how deeply they had always mattered to one another. I feel like there's so much I wanted to say, but I never knew how, Mia admitted, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her sweater. Like there's this part of me that's always been waiting for the right time, or maybe just the courage to speak. Laura reached over, covering Mia's hands with her own. The gesture was simple, ordinary even, yet it carried a weight that words couldn't capture. I understand, Laura said softly. I think I've felt that way too. So many times I wanted to tell you how much I notice you, how proud I am of you, how much you mean to me. But life moves fast, and sometimes we let moments pass, thinking there will be another day. Mia's heart swelled at her mother's honesty. There was no exaggeration here, no dramage, just the truth, raw and tender, laid bare in the quiet of their shared space. She realized that the bond she had longed for all along wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic confessions. It was about presence, attention, and the courage to finally speak what had always been true. I've missed that, Mia said, her voice breaking slightly. The, the moments where we just are, without distraction, without pretending, without all the things that keep us busy. Laura nodded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. I've missed it too, she admitted. More than I realized. And now that we have this time together, I don't want to waste it. The room fell into a comfortable silence again, but it was different now. The air was no longer heavy with hesitation. It was charged with understanding, acknowledgement, and the quiet thrill of connection finally expressed. Mia felt a warmth in her chest, a feeling that was both comforting and exhilarating. As if she had been given permission to breathe fully in her own emotions. I've always wanted to tell you that I noticed the little things, Mia said after a pause, her voice almost a whisper. The way you care for everyone, the way you manage everything without complaining, the way you make people feel seen. I've always admired that. I've always wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. Laura's eyes glistened. You notice more than you realize, she said softly, and it matters to me, to us. You make me proud every single day, and I wish I had found a way to tell you that more often. Mia's fingers tightened around her mother's. It feels like we're finally saying what we should have said years ago, she murmured. But it also feels right? Like it's meant to happen now, not then. Maybe this is the way life wanted it to be. Laura reached out and gently touched Mia's cheek. Sometimes the unspoken truths are the ones that take TH. The evening settled over the house like a gentle, protective blanket. Shadows stretched across the walls, and the soft hum of the heater created a quiet rhythm in the otherwise still living room. Mia and Laura sat together, side by side, yet the air between them was electric with unspoken feelings. Every glance, every pause, every small movement carried weight. Mia's heart thumped nervously as she watched. Her mother leafed through a photo album that had been sitting untouched for years. Pictures of birthdays, vacations, school recitals, and quiet mornings were scattered across the pages. Each snapshot frozen in time but heavy with emotion. I forgot how many pictures we took during that summer at the lake, Mia said softly, tracing the edge of a photograph with her fingertip. It feels like a lifetime ago. Laura smiled faintly, eyes lingering on the same photo. It does, she murmured. And yet, it also feels like yesterday. Time is strange that way, isn't it? Mia swallowed hard, feeling the familiar tug of longing she had carried for years. The closeness they had always shared, and yet the things they had never said admiration. Gratitude, love, and unacknowledged emotions pressed against the walls of her chest. She knew this moment was fragile, and she had to be brave. Mom. Mia began, her voice trembling slightly, unsure if the words would even carry the weight she intended. There's something I've needed to say for a long time. Laura turned to her, eyes full of gentle curiosity. What is it, Mia? Mia hesitated, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of the photo. I love you, she said finally. The words were simple, yet profound, carrying a depth that had been unspoken for years. Not just because you're my mom, but because of everything you've done for me, everything you've taught me, and how much you've shaped who I am. I've always noticed you, really noticed you. Laura's breath caught, and for a moment the world outside seemed to disappear. The photo album, the fading sunlight, the quiet of the evening, all of it faded into the background, leaving only the two of them in a suspended, intimate space of truth and emotion. I've always known, Laura said softly, a tear glistening in the corner of her eye. I've always known, Mia, and I've felt the same. I've felt it quietly every day in the way I worry about you, the way I watch you grow, the way I hope for you and with you. I never knew how to say it without it sounding too much, too overwhelming. But hearing you say it, it's everything I've wanted to hear and more. Mia felt a wave of relief and warmth flood through her. The hesitation, the years of unspoken feelings, the quiet longing, it was all being acknowledged now. And the acknowledgement didn't diminish anything. It amplified the bond they had, making it richer, stronger, and more real than ever before, I thought. Maybe I was too late, Mia admitted, her voice breaking with emotion. I thought that saying this now might be too little too late, but it feels right, like it was meant to be said today. Laura reached out, brushing a strand of hair from Mia's face, her touch gentle, grounding, filled with love. It's never too late for the truth, she said. The right time isn't always the first time. It's the moment when hearts are ready to hear it, to feel it, and to accept it. That moment is now. The two of them sat in silence for a while, letting the words sink in. Mia felt a profound shift within herself, a quiet liberation that came from finally speaking her heart. Laura's steady presence beside her made every lingering doubt disappear. The emotions that had been building for years now had room to exist freely. Without fear or hesitation, Mia's eyes fell on another photo, one of them sitting on a park bench, laughing as the autumn leaves fell around them. "I remember this day," she said softly. "I felt so happy, but I didn't realize how much I was holding back, how much I wanted to tell you." Laura nodded, her smile tender. "And now you have," she said. "And now I can tell you everything I've felt, too." There was a stillness in the room, the kind that comes when two people finally let their hearts speak, unguarded and fully present. It wasn't a loud revelation or a dramatic scene. It was quiet, honest, and profound. And in that quiet, they found something they had both been longing for: recognition, understanding, and the certainty that their connection had deepened irrevocably, I think. Mia whispered, her voice soft but firm, that this changes everything. Not in a big, loud way, but in a way that matters, in a way that will carry with us always. Laura squeezed her hand, her eyes glistening with emotion. "It does," she agreed. "Everything we've felt, everything we've kept inside. It finally has a voice. And that voice, it's ours, together. For the first time in what felt like forever, the tension, hesitation, and longing melted into a quiet, powerful joy. The unspoken truths had finally been spoken, and the bond between them was no longer just understood, it was celebrated, lived, and embraced fully. The evening deepened, and the room was bathed in the soft glow of twilight. Outside, the world continued in its rhythm. But inside, Mia and Laura had discovered something timeless: the transformative power of truth, of courage, and of love spoken and received in its purest, most heartfelt form. In that quiet living room, surrounded by memories and light, mother and daughter shared a moment that would forever mark a turning point, a moment of clarity, connection, and emotional fulfillment that neither would ever forget. The days that followed the turning point felt lighter, yet deeply meaningful. Mia and Laura moved through their home with a renewed sense of closeness, a quiet awareness of the bond they had finally acknowledged. It wasn't flashy or dramatic, it was steady, enduring, and entirely real. Every glance, every smile, every shared task carried the weight of unspoken truths now made visible, strengthening the fabric of their connection. One morning, the air crisp with early autumn, Mia and Laura decided to take a walk in the neighborhood park. The trees were ablaze with colors of orange, red, and gold, and the path beneath their feet crunched softly with fallen leaves. For a while, they walked side by side in companionable silence, letting the beauty of the world around them fill in the words that didn't need to be spoken. Finally, Mia broke the quiet. "I've been thinking," she said softly, "about how we've spent so much time just going through the motions. It feels different now, like we're finally seeing each other, really seeing each other." Laura glanced at her, a smile lighting up her face. "I feel the same way," she said. "It's amazing how much clarity comes when you finally speak what's in your heart. The rest of the world can wait. We have this." Mia nodded, feeling a warm sense of satisfaction and comfort. "I don't want to take this for granted," she admitted. "I want us to keep this, to hold on to it." Laura reached over and squeezed her daughter's hand gently. "We will," she said. "It's ours to nurture, just like you used to watch me care for the garden when you were little. Love, understanding, and presence, they need attention too. And now we have the chance to do that intentionally." As they continued walking, Mia reflected on how much had changed. The weight of hesitation and unspoken emotions had been lifted, replaced with a quiet joy and reassurance. Every shared glance felt meaningful, every laugh lighter, every conversation more heartfelt. Life, which had once felt so hurried and distracting, now seemed full of possibilities, small yet profound, waiting for them to notice. Back at home, they settled in the living room with mugs of steaming tea, the golden light of late afternoon spilling through the windows. The photo album from a few days prior sat between them, reopened, and for a while they simply flipped through it together, laughing at old memories, reminiscing about small victories, and marveling at how much they had grown. "Do you remember this?" Laura asked, pointing to a photograph of Mia at her first piano recital. "You were so nervous, and I think you almost refused to go on stage, but you did it anyway." Mia laughed softly. "I couldn't have done it without you sitting in the front row, smiling at me like I was the only person in the world. I think that's when I first realized how much I wanted to make you proud." "And you did," Laura said, her voice gentle and proud. "You've made me proud every single day, in ways big and small. And now, seeing you embrace life, your emotions, your honesty, it's like a full circle moment. I'm proud of you, Mia, more than words can ever express." Mia felt a lump in her throat, touched not only by her mother's words, but by the sincerity and warmth behind them. "I think I'm proud of you too, Mom," she whispered. "For everything you've done, for how you've shaped our family, and for just being you." The warmth of that acknowledgement wrapped around them, like a soft blanket in a quiet winter night. The home felt alive with presence, with understanding, with love that didn't need embellishment. For Mia and Laura, life didn't need dramatic gestures or sweeping changes. It needed honesty, attention, and a willingness to embrace moments fully when they arrived. As evening fell, the sky painted in gentle hues of lavender and gold. Mia and Laura moved to the porch carrying their mugs of tea. The garden, once quiet and still, seemed alive in the fading light. Leaves rustled softly, and the scent of autumn air filled their senses. They sat together, side by side, sharing a comfortable silence that spoke louder than words ever could. "It feels like everything's in place now," Mia said quietly. Laura nodded, resting her hand lightly on her daughter's. "It does. And it will stay this way as long as we continue to notice, continue to care, continue to spa."